Thanks for joining us for the programme here. Vienna is putting its claims to tolerance up in lights. When you're waiting to cross the street, you're probably used to seeing a red symbol of a person with very few features blinking back at you. But the Austrian city is showing it's open to all walks of life by bringing in this same-sex couple to let you know when it's safe to go. 120 of them have been put across the town ahead of the Eurovision Song Contest, which will take place there in just over a week's time. Authorities say the new symbols show Vienna's open-mindedness, though not everyone's convinced. Here's Robin de Broek from the English Democrats organisation.
Who are involved in gay and lesbian activity are apparently only about 1.5% of the population. So you are talking about a relatively small number of people. I think they're trying to justify themselves. The values of the individuals who are responsible for doing this, but are they the values actually of ordinary Viennese people? The reason they're doing this is to promote this gay and lesbian lifestyle choice rather than anything to do with traffic. It's a misuse of public funds. I think the point about traffic lights is that they're about traffic and controlling movement rather than about a political statement, aren't they?
Well, staying with Europe, the President of the European Parliament will be awarded an international prize for supporting EU unity. RT's Peter Oliver takes a look at the challenges Martin Schulz has faced.
What we have to do is to act, and to act together.
Rousing stuff from the European Parliament President. The type of statement that has seen him awarded the prestigious International Charlemagne Prize for bringing unity to the European Union. With just a few hiccups, like Greek demands for World War II reparations at a time when it's pressed for cash.
I underline as somebody who is, I think, known to stick to the specific responsibility of my country for the history of my country. I find this absolutely inappropriate, and we should not combine these two different things.
How to pay for the EU.
If you adopt now once more on one hand engagements which are enormously higher than the payments, you increase the deficit. And therefore I think this is unacceptable, and I'm often astonished why nobody takes this serious.
And the rise of hardline Eurosceptic parties. Split between the haves in the north and the have-nots in the south. Split on what to do with the influx of refugees. Split on which members should split, either from the single currency or from being members at all. With Greece flat broke and Britain deciding whether it wants to leave the club entirely, is this really the time to be dishing out prizes for promoting unity to politicians that have presided over one of the most fractious periods in EU history?
Giving the prize to a self-elected, self-appointed little gang and clique in Brussels who use the prize in order to confirm each other and makes the prize more or less ridiculous. And this is the case now with Mr. Schulz.
So how unified do the citizens Martin Schulz represents actually feel?
There is too many national egos determining policy in the EU right now.
I think it's quite united because my impression is that we are all growing closer together. Yeah. Sí. We just have the problem with England actually, so.
There is too much difference between the economies in the north and in the south.
In picking Schulz as this year's winner of the International Charlemagne Prize, the board of directors praised an outstanding mentor of a united Europe who's earned important and lasting merits for his efforts towards a strengthening of parliament, parliamentarianism and democratic legitimation in the EU.
A system of people who appoint each other and who award each other prizes, which is something we cannot really take seriously.
The EU Parliament President will no doubt enjoy picking up his Unity Award, if only as a welcome distraction from the issues dividing Europe. Peter Oliver, RT.
Online for you right now at RT.com, the spy scandal around the German government isn't fading away. It's been reported that Germany's intelligence agency sends over 1 billion pieces of data collected from phone and text messages to America's National Security Agency every month. Details at RT.com. Plus, a Danish scientist calls for an end to the use of antidepressants, claiming they cause 500,000 deaths every year in people over age 65. RT.com has that disturbing story. Now on the program, gunmen have stormed a hotel in the capital of Afghanistan, killing at least 5 people, including 1 American. Afghan security forces shot all of the attackers and rescued more than 50 guests inside the building. No group has admitted carrying out the attack yet, though the Taliban has conducted similar assaults in the past. Well, amid the ongoing dire situation in Afghanistan, the main government organization in charge of rebuilding the country has put out a strong message. It says the U.S. has failed in multiple ways. Well, despite millions of dollars spent by Washington, many hospitals in Afghanistan are still understaffed and short of vital equipment. The situation isn't any better for schools either, since many are so badly built they could collapse on the students. And a big part of the cash poured into Afghanistan over the years just can't be found. And many contracts to Afghan companies have only been partly finished or dropped completely. And in the past, the U.S. has always injected huge amounts of money into combating drug production in Afghanistan. But now the opium output is vastly increasing. In fact, last year, the UN said that poppies covered an area the size of 400,000 football fields. We spoke to several experts about why the situation has gotten to this point.
It's not just that the occupiers failed to eradicate opium production. Opium production has massively increased since 2001. It's gone up more than 4 or 5 times. The occupation has destroyed the country's infrastructure. It's destroyed any possibility of development, so people have fallen back on something that's very cheap and lucrative to produce.
The U.S. has tried desperately to stem the flow of poppies and opium out of Afghanistan, but just like everybody else, they have failed on that issue. What's surprising is that the Americans were actually willing to acknowledge the failure.
Some other global headlines in brief. An army general in the Central African nation of Burundi has led a coup against the government of President Nkurunziza while he was attending a summit in neighboring Tanzania. Thousands flooded the streets in Burundi's capital in celebration. The president attempted to return to the country, but apparently had difficulty landing, so he had to turn back to Tanzania. Burundi's military is currently divided between those loyal to the president and those supporting the coup. At least 31 people have died in a fire at a slipper factory, this in the Philippine capital. Still, though, 30 other people unaccounted for. The blaze was reportedly caused by sparks from welding work carried out near flammable chemicals close to the building's entrance. Most of the victims are thought to have suffocated in thick black smoke from burning rubber and chemicals. Now, in the United States, a bill to end the National Security Agency's mass collection of phone records surprisingly won broad support in the House of Representatives. The decision comes less than a week after the Court of Appeal ruled that the NSA's phone data collection program is, in fact, illegal. The court decided the activities go far beyond what Congress intended when it passed the Patriot Act after 9/11. And former U.S. presidential candidate Ron Paul spoke to the hosts of RT's Watching the Hawks about this bill.
How are our liberties being protected if we undermine and destroy our liberties in the pretense that we're chasing an enemy? We get involved in these conflicts because we're too involved anyway, and we're in their countries and bombing them and putting on these sanctions, and all of a sudden they say, well, we have to do it or it would be much worse. Well, that is the cause, and it comes back to haunt us. And what happens to us here at home? We lose our liberties here at home at the same time. It's costing us a bundle, driving us into bankruptcy, and our freedoms are being undermined. So we're told that we're over there to protect our liberties and enforce the Constitution by fighting unconstitutional wars overseas and by unconstitutionally undermining our Fourth Amendment here at home. It makes no sense. I just wish the American people would wake up.
Political tensions are spilling over in the Balkan state of Macedonia, where 2 ministers and the intelligence chief have been forced to step down. But ongoing protests are demanding the whole government resign. The demonstrations were sparked by leaked recordings that suggested officials tried to cover up the police killing of a young man in 2011. Deadly clashes also erupted on the weekend between state security forces and anti-government groups in the north of the country. Officials say the group, led by ethnic Albanians, was attempting to destabilize the delicate peace between minorities. RT's Lizzie Phelan now reporting on local fears more violence is poised to break out.
It's Macedonia's most ethnically integrated city, but this latest conflict has sparked fears of a return to the dark days of the 2001 conflict between the government and ethnic Albanian fighters. People are confused about what is behind events over the weekend and what it means for their future. This school is just a few streets down from where that heavy fighting took place over the weekend, leaving 22 dead and destroying rows of houses. Now, this is a school for Macedonian children, but right next door over there is a school for the community's Albanian children, a symbol of how this is a country that is still very sensitive to ethnic tensions being provoked and flaring up. Teacher Tanya Petrushevska said that anxiety levels amongst pupils and parents are high. They fear a repeat of the 2001 conflict could be round the corner.
Everybody is scared and anxious, even myself. This is my first working day after the conflict. But that's the reality. We live in such a country where we have to learn to live with these events.
Now, today, just half of this school's children have showed up for their lessons, which teachers say is a result of the fear in this community, which is still very palpable in the wake of recent events in this country. But if we come over here, there's a drawing here by pupils from this school, which shows the sun shining down on all of Macedonia's people, on ethnic Serbs, Albanians, Roma and Macedonians, which, while there is a lot of worries about these tensions potentially boiling over once again, all of the people that we've spoken to from various different communities say that this is very much their shared vision for the future of their country. Lizzie Phelan for RT.
Bulgaria and Serbia are already increasing security on their borders with Macedonia over fears of an influx of immigration, similar to the ones seen from neighbouring Kosovo. Every day, hundreds of Kosovo Albanians smuggle across the border to escape poverty and unemployment, ultimately forcing EU states to try and stem the flow of migrants. We spoke to Serbian-American author and filmmaker Sasha Knezev. He thinks the current situation in Macedonia will force ever more people to flee.